has had that's good. Has had the pace. Hadjar had. Why are we doing that today? That's funny. Anyway, let's get into it.
It's lights out and away we go.
With NASCAR on a break for Easter and the IndyCar schedule having 2 weeks in between each race, that left just the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix to satisfy our need to watch cars going in circles. And boy, did it come through. We had Norris's amazing recovery after a qualifying crash, we had some brilliant strategy on behalf of Williams, and plenty of lap 1 drama.
There was not a lot of news going into this week. The two biggest stories were probably Stefano Domenicali talking about how Imola could potentially be leaving the calendar after his contract is up, and Helmut Marko was running his mouth about Max Verstappen leaving again. So I guess we'll start with Stefano Domenicali. Now, this man is from Imola. Like, that's where he was born. If he's talking about Imola leaving the calendar, then it might be serious, because I would think he would fight to keep Imola on the calendar.
Yeah, at first I was opposed to the idea, but then I realized that 24 races can fill up really quickly. So maybe Imola leaving is a good idea. I'm glad we're keeping Monza. That's a track full of history. Definitely, if we're having 2 races in Italy, definitely is a little odd since it doesn't happen anywhere else.
Monza's been on the calendar every year of the championship. I do think it carries a little more historical significance than Imola, and I do think having 2 races in Italy is a bit of a stretch. I mean, I don't like having 3 races here in America, considering Miami's just a parking lot. There are a few upcoming tracks that could be filled. The one I'm most excited about is a street race in Cape Town, South Africa. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, I will put up an image of the proposed track. There is also talks of a track coming to Rwanda after they hosted the prize-giving ceremony at the end of the year, and I've also heard talk of a race coming to South Korea. So a lot of interesting possibilities, but a race in Africa would definitely be my first pick to replace Imola.
I think putting the world into World Championship would be very nice. I also saw something about a Thailand Grand Prix.
Thailand currently has one FIA Grade 1 circuit, the Chang International Circuit. Now, if you look at the track map, it's very similar to the Red Bull Ring. I will also put an image of it up on the YouTube stream of this. Or I would not be opposed to this. There's probably 4 DRS straights, a couple of sharp turns. It would make for a good track, I think. So either a Thai Grand Prix or a Cape Town Grand Prix. Cape Town would probably be my number 1. Thailand would be the number 2.
Yeah, I would be excited about a new track. And a new track always creates some interest because we don't really know what it's going to do and what it's going to be like and what the racing is going to be like and whether or not you can overtake or how that's going to be possible.
Yes, I was pleasantly surprised with Las Vegas being the most recent track to join. I mean, 2023, it was still the Verstappen dominance.
There was a lot of interest with Checo and Leclerc fighting for that second place spot.
Yes, so Vegas has been a pleasant surprise.
Yes, I really enjoy Vegas. For the basicness of the track, it creates some good racing. And most of all, that's what really matters. Not so much the skill that it takes for the drivers to compete around the track, but racing action, quality, and drama.
I think it shares that in common with Baku as well, that even though that is a weird-looking track, Baku always produces some good races.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Monaco, on the other hand, Monte Carlo, it's a fantastic track to drive, but not great overtaking action. We saw that last year with 4 overtakes the entire race.
The first time in F1 history that the top 10 started and finished in the same order.
It almost didn't. Sainz almost got that puncture. We cooked them.
That was close at the start, but thanks to the K-Mag Checo incident, then they were able to get those lap 1 pit stops and cruise the rest of the race.
It almost happened again in Japan. Had Lewis Hamilton not overtaken Hadjar.
Yes, which, that's like that incident and the sprint are about the only times Lewis has shown pace in that Ferrari this year. We'll get into that later, but
yeah.
The other major news story going into this week was the Well, Helmut Marko was running his mouth again, which he does that every week. But this time it was about Max Verstappen's future at Red Bull. Now, apparently there were some private talks going on between Max Verstappen and the Red Bull. They really need to take Helmut off their driver development program. He has not done a good job with that. Christian
Right.
Horner's being Christian Horner. Red Bull, they have a lot of internal struggles to work out, so it makes sense why Max would be in talks.
Right. I think one performance where Max still finished ahead of his teammate on that point doesn't mean that he should just get off the team. I mean, P6 is not bad. In another day, P6 is really something to be proud of, especially if you don't have pace. And he still finished ahead of his teammate Tsunoda. He did have pace in China at the end, for sure. So he's not doing poorly by any means. He just doesn't have the machinery to challenge consistently on a week-to-week basis, and it's clearly what the problem is. It's his machinery and not the driver.
Yes.
Verstappen is far from being washed up and like on the way to retirement. He's only like 30, I think.
Yes, he has been in F1 for,
It's
I
too
believe,
early.
10 years at this point.
It's too early for him to go on to join Helmut's list of washed-up drivers.
Yes, Max Verstappen is nowhere near washed up. There's just Red Bull has had a good run at there for a minute, but their internal politics are finally coming to a head, and it's affecting performance drastically.
Yes, creates great drama. That's what I say.
It does
I like
create
that.
entertaining drama.
Yes, and he was rumored to go to Aston Martin, which surprising at the least, but clearly Aston Martin has refuted those rumors with Cowell's talks to the press. He's saying that they're interested in creating a good car and keeping Alonso and Stroll. Now, Stroll were to leave for Verstappen, that would be interesting. But with the whole nepotism thing going on there,
From what I've heard of the Aston Martin rumors, Max would replace Alonso because Stroll will be there until the end of time, or
right?
until
Stroll's
Lawrence
not
Stroll
leaving.
sells the team.
Stroll's not leaving even if he wants to leave.
Yes.
Also, the midfield thing that's happening, the competitiveness for points, is fantastic, I would say. You've got Williams and Alpine, who both seem to be really fast, especially as we saw last weekend out in Bahrain, and this weekend it was proved again. And you've also got Racing Bulls up there in the mix, and every so often Haster's up there as well. So very, very competitive in the midfield, I would say.
Yes, we have the Williams excellent performance this week, as we'll get into later. We have had Hadjar scoring pretty consistent points. We've had Haas has had a few standout performances, even if Ocon's P5 did come after DNFs. Ollie Behrman still had a great recovery drive last week in Bahrain. 20th place all the way up to 10th is by no means easy.
Right.
I think Jack Doohan is an interesting case because Gasly has shown that Alpine is capable of scoring. I think he qualified P5 in Bahrain last week.
P5 in Bahrain and ended up scoring. Let's see, he
He ended up finishing P7 because Verstappen got past him on the last lap. Yeah, so Gasly has proved that Alpine has pace. Racing Bulls has pace. Haas has pace week to week.
Double points in Bahrain for them.
The Williams have pace. So yes, the midfield is incredibly competitive. But then Alpine could make I think they could do something similar to what they did last year, make a strong run. It may, as much as I do like Jack Doohan, I do think he will eventually get replaced by Colapinto, just considering the massive amounts of money Alpine spent to get Colapinto out of his Williams contract. That
Doohan was on pace for points, I think. Had Alpine not put the hards on, I think he could have been up there competing for points.
Doohan will score points this year. It's just, does he do enough in the eyes of Flavio Briatore to stay in that seat? That'll be the big question.
Right. Because obviously we all saw what happened with Logan Sargent. He was in there way too long. So if things start to happen like that, yeah, that he'll need to go. Interesting that we have Fernando Alonso, Liam Lawson, who both have not scored points yet. That's very intriguing to me. Meanwhile, Lance Stroll has scored 10 points.
Yes, Stroll has scored 10
Despite
points.
not deserving to be there.
Yes, even though he broke the record for the most Q1 eliminations at 75 this week, he still has scored all of Aston Martin's points.
Which is an impressive feat.
For Stroll, that is.
Yes, for Stroll. It's amazing how he hasn't messed up yet. Hasn't strolled.
Stroll has not strolled yet this season, but he will.
He will. But we'll get him on a street circuit eventually.
The Fernando case is interesting. That he had the two DNFs to start the season. China with it was a brake failure. Am I right?
But yeah, that's right.
Yes, and then he just crashed with the rest of the rookies in Australia. So he has had 2 less races to score points, but it is surprising. And then I think Lawson is still getting over. He's still in shock from his
Yeah,
performances at
I
Red
mean,
Bull.
he was right there at Jeddah. Jeddah was very competitive, so I think he's probably might be over it by now. But he only finished 12th because of that 10-second penalty. We'll get to that later.
Yes,
And then he just had, otherwise he would have been P11, which is just behind his teammate. So he's really not far off the pace
yes,
that his
Lawson
teammate's
is.
setting.
He's finally showing us what he showed us when he replaced Danny Rick in 23 and for the latter half of 24. Lawson will be back soon. All right, let's get into the race now. The practices, nothing much. Good job on Gasly for topping the first practice, but that really just shows you how much first practice means if an Alpine is topping it. We did have the small Sonoda wreck in practice as well.
Yeah, just a small mistake turned into much. And
Yeah, similar to Max Verstappen's qualifying lap in Jeddah 21. So nothing else major in the practices there, with the McLarens topping the other 2 sections.
Yeah. And then it looks like Williams had good pace in the practices as well, which is surprising that they have had back-to-back weeks with consistency. See, they had P5 and P7, FP1. Then Sainz was P5, FP2, and they were P6 and P7 in FP3. So they were both running very well all weekend. And then Albon barely missed out on Q3 in qualifying, 7 thousandths of a second, I believe. Albon set a 128, 109, and I believe it was Sainz had a 128.024. It was right there.
Yes, the Williams have been a pleasant surprise this season, even though James Vowles has been saying that they're prioritizing 2026 and all of that, and that they signed signs for a long term, that whatever they've done to the car this season has been marketable improvement.
Right. I mean, every team is going to focus on 2026. That's the bigger deal, I would say, in this season in terms of like car development than it is in this season. Because 2026 is when you've got a whole new thing. We've got engine manufacturers changing the place all over the place. Red Bull's not going to be with Honda next year. Same for Racing Bulls. Like they're going to be with Ford, which should be exciting. And Aston Martin is switching to Honda, I believe. Switching off of Mercedes into Honda. Aston Martin is on Mercedes, right?
Yes, it is. Aston Martin Aramco Mercedes is their team name.
They're switching to Honda. Yeah, that'll be interesting just to see how the whole shift up happens. I hate to say it, but even though Adrian Newey's on Aston Martin now, he'll probably make that 2026 car pretty good. It's a good chance.
Yes, we hope so. That Newey is focusing entirely on the 2026 cars, so that's why Aston is kind of bad right now.
Right.
That's not Newey's job.
It is far away from where they were in 2023.
Yes, at the start of 23, Fernando fighting for podiums, and now they're fighting with Salvers for P17. Like, yeah.
Qualifying, though, yeah, it's standard qualifying with Q1 and Q2. Hamilton barely into Q3. It was right there on the edge. Then Lando had his big Q3 crash, which
he did.
Really plays into, I think, his mentality. Really just affecting like his whole performance, I would say, because that was a really uncharacteristic crash from Lando. And I think he's just really been out of it this week. And he's like really sad sounding. Like and this like mentality, like he's having trouble like just locking in, and it's really affecting the way he drives and his performance. He locked in on the race, but his qualifying performance really hasn't been helping him very much. If you contrast that to his teammate Piastri is like flatline emotion.
Yes, Piastri is the Iceman. That's why I like him.
Yeah, Piastri is chill as ice. He doesn't get fazed by anything, and that's showing. He's gotten back-to-back wins now, 3 wins on the season, more than any other driver. So,
which is not what we were expecting going into the season.
Right. First Australian to lead since Mark Webber in 2010. The big deal. And then there was George, Oscar, and Max all set lap records back to back to back, which is Fantastic. That
Yes,
was
that was
so
by
exciting.
far one of the best qualifying sessions of the season.
Yes, I love that.
And on the Lando crash, if you look at his onboard compared to Piastri's onboard, Lando went way wide compared to Piastri into turn 4 here. He may have even gotten a tiny bit of understeer going through there. Like if you watch the onboards, there's a marginal difference. Piastri's almost clipping the wall, taking the good line, and then Lando's probably, call it 6 inches or so off it. So he's already going wide into the corner. And so he's got a tiny bit of understeer. He gets onto the curb, presses the throttle, and gets a snap of oversteer,
It
which throws
slithers
him
into
into
the
the wall.
wall. Yeah.
Yes. So, but on Lando's mentality, that it has benefited him in the past to get his bottle over with in qualifying. I think back to the Austin Sprint last year, where he had kind of a mediocre qualifying and then pulled 2 overtakes on the first corner.
Right.
And then in the race, qualified on pole and then lost it to Verstappen. Or Verstappen forced him wide, and Leclerc got through to take the lead there.
And then there was Bahrain last week where he qualified P6 and overtakes 3 people, albeit with a false start, but cracking start from Lando. He can't do well when he's on pole, but everywhere else he's great.
When he's fighting for a comeback, he is an excellent driver. When he has no disadvantage, he will bottle it in the race. All right, let's cover the race now. I guess we'll start off with the start of the race. We have the Yuki Gasly crash and the Max Piastri incident. So I guess since the Max Piastri incident came first, we'll start there. Now, I have their reaction times here. Oscar got a 0.24 second faster reaction off the line, so that's why they were neck and neck on there. But he was a little earlier on the brakes. So when they were going into turn 1, if you watch the onboards, like I can barely tell who's in front. From Piastri's view, it looks like Max is there. From Max's view, it looks like Piastri's ahead. So it really came down to, it was a toss-up for the stewards. I mean, I think it could have gone either way. I also read on the technical document for Max's penalty that it normally would have been a 10-second penalty, following precedent like Austin and Mexico last year. But because it was on lap 1, that counted as a mitigating circumstance, which dropped it down to a 5-second penalty.
Yeah, well, I think it was an unfair penalty. That's my opinion on it. Because I think if they were both so close, either one could have been it. Then they should have left each other room. Like Piastri didn't leave Max any room to even stay on the track. So I think what Max did was perfectly justified, and I don't think that penalty was fair at all.
We couldn't tell who was ahead.
Right. So I think they should have both stayed on the track. And like most chicane battles, like they both stay on the track. They don't force each other off. You
Yes,
can't.
it was
You shouldn't be
definitely
able
a
to do that.
toss-up on a penalty.
So I think that should have been a penalty on Piastri for forcing a driver off the track.
It could have gone either way.
Or even better, no penalty, really. They should have just
Yes,
let him race.
no penalty would have been the best thing there. I mean, people are saying that the penalty is the only reason Piastri won the race. I mean, Leclerc at the end of the race did prove the undercut is very powerful here at Jeddah. And so it would have been a very close race, potentially coming down to like some battle in the last 10 laps. But I'm not saying that's the deciding factor. It did play a part in at least the margin of victory that Piastri did have.
Right. I mean, he only won by 2 seconds. So when you add 5 seconds, when you take away 5 seconds from Max's race time, he's in the lead. So I think that could have been a big difference. Of course, I mean, having the penalties changed all of Red Bull's strategy decisions with that. So it's really hard to tell
Yeah, we can't
who would
know
have won regardless of the penalty. There's a good chance Piastri may have won regardless with his pace,
Yes.
because he would have managed his race differently if he wasn't in the lead. So it's really hard to tell.
Definitely.
And we found he had a lot of pace at the end, so we could have easily had a 5 second. It could have easily been a 5-second victory rather than 2.5.
Now on to the other big lap 1 incident, the Yuki and Gasly's crash on turn 4. From watching the onboards, it wasn't really anyone's fault. I think Yuki was a little closer than Gasly thought, and then Gasly kind of cut across Yuki, and not realizing it was there, that there was just some minor collision, spun around. Gasly had a sizable damage, nothing bad, no horrible G's because they weren't going super fast, but still enough to ruin his race. And then Yuki was interesting. He had a very minor tap. He was able to get the car back going again and finish out the lap, but when he pulled into the pits, Red Bull determined that for whatever reason that he was unfit to continue. Might have been minor rear wing damage, but we're not sure. I was hoping Yuki could have got going again and made a pretty good run through the field, because that Red Bull, even though it is incredibly difficult to drive. It is still faster than the midfield teams, so that would have been an exciting storyline, but I mean, replacing a rear wing is incredibly difficult.
Yeah, it must have been enough damage to the rear wing where he couldn't not keep pace with the rest of the field or really just consistently do it. We don't really know what they found, but that must have been it.
Yes, it was really no one's fault, just an unfortunate incident.
So then there were some strategy gambles made by a bunch of the midfield teams, especially Ocon. Doohan did pretty much the whole race on the
Yes, Ocon, Doohan, and Bortoleto came in for
hard tires. Unfortunately, it just did not work out for them
It did
because
not pan out.
they just didn't have space. The fall off wasn't enough to really make them faster at any point.
The hard tire,
I think on different tracks this would work much better because there's just immediate fall off, but not in this situation.
yes, the hard tire did seem to have a threshold. It seemed to be really good for like 25, 30 laps, but after that, it just like went dead. So like imagine you have a straight line graph, and then it just immediately tanks at the end.
Right.
So it was a good gamble. I think Haas has had that's good. Haas has had the pace in previous races. I'm thinking China and last week, but they didn't have it this week to pull it off. The Sauber never really did. Doohan got kind of close, but eventually he and Ocon got stuck behind. Who was it? He and Doohan got stuck behind Hulkenberg and were running in the dirty air for the majority of the beginning of the race. So I think that if they had been able to get past Hulkenberg pretty fast, then maybe they could have made it to the end of the race. But I mean, again, speculative thinking. We don't know what would have happened.
Right.
Definitely a gamble worth taking for those three, just
Right.
because they
Especially
were.
if you're in the back, you want to do everything you can to get to the front. No
Yes,
strategy flaws there. It's a long way to go to the end, but I think that's worth it. Do a little bit of mega undercut.
yes, the
I like
mega
myself a good
undercut.
gamble.
Yeah, I definitely liked the gamble there, even if it didn't pay out.
And it didn't create good racing action either, which is a shame.
Yes. All right, what's next? I guess the first round of pit stops that Max and Oscar, even though Oscar did have a very slow stop at 3.4 second. Max's, I believe, was right on it, or like 0.1 of a second faster, not counting the 5 second penalty. So again, not sure how that would have played in to the fight without the penalty.
Yeah.
But I think the medium runners can't coming in for the hards.
Except for
Nothing
Leclerc.
nothing really to talk there.
Leclerc stayed out, had a mega stint on that medium, which was super impressive. It was a
Yes,
super stint from Leclerc.
that was the best bit of Ferrari pace we've seen all season.
Yeah, that was
I mean, maybe outside
phenomenal.
of the China sprint, but it was an excellent performance by Leclerc.
Yes, I'm very, very proud of Leclerc for what he did there. It was just absolutely fantastic pace. And it also meant that Norris didn't get as much clean air. He wasn't in the lead for as long as he could have been, which may have slowed him down a little bit.
Yes,
I don't know.
I definitely agree with that. Lando, he did spend a good bit of the race complaining about clean air, like right after he got around Sainz on lap 7. Lando was running in the dirty air for a little bit, so maybe that played into his race. If he had gotten a little more clean air, maybe he could have had enough pace to get past Charles for the podium at the end, but again, speculation. Okay, what's next? All I have left is the Bortoleto Fernando incident.
That was just a really close call.
Yes, that was really close. From what I could see, he was just trying to move out the way, but Fernando just so happened to be right there. And he pulled a Kimmy and said "bois" over the radio. So first "bois" of the season. I was very happy about that.
That was really close though.
Very close.
I saw Piastri and Leclerc in the cool down room. They were just like, "Whoa!" Like they were really shocked by how close that was. It's a shame it didn't wreck, honestly, because we really needed a safety car to spice things up.
The incident took place on lap 25. Having a safety car at that moment on lap 25, Earl was in the lead and Lando was right behind him, so neither of them had
That would
pitted.
have been huge. But Leclerc in contention for the win, Ferrari's first Grand Prix win of the season.
And it definitely would have helped Lando's odds of getting a podium. Lawson received a 10-second penalty for causing a collision with Nico Hulkenberg. The same penalty he received last week. So this week he got a 10-second penalty for colliding with Nico Hulkenberg and 2 penalty points. He got a 10-second penalty and 2 penalty points for colliding with Nico Hulkenberg in Bahrain, and 5-second penalty and 2 penalty points for hitting Lance last week. So that's 5 penalty points in 2 races for Lawson.
Yeah, when did Lawson actually hit Hulkenberg? I don't believe I saw that.
It was towards the end of the race. So now both Liam Lawson and Jack Doohan have more penalty points than World Championship points.
That's crazy.
All right. And the last thing for the race, the Williams strategy at the end of the race. That's the best bit of strategy I've seen all season. Having Sainz drop back to tow Alex Albon through the rest of the race just to keep a barreling Isaac Hadjar from passing them. Because Hadjar had why are we doing that today? That's funny. Isaac Hadjar had excellent pace, starting P14, getting up to P10. He had a good run long on the hards at the start, so he would have benefited from a safety car from the Bortoleto Fernando incident. And he was running on the mediums there. So that was whoever on the Williams pit wall decided to do that. Give them a raise, James Vowles, please.
Yes, that was brilliant. It kind of reminds me of what Sainz did in Singapore 2023, where he dragged Lando, gave him DRS, so as to prevent the Mercedes of Russell from overtaking Lando and ultimately overtaking Sainz. Just a brilliant piece of strategy there from Williams.
Yes, and well executed by both of the drivers. I'm excited to see what Williams can do the rest of the season. One other thing I wanted to mention, I think overtake of the race goes to Piastri's lap 22 on Hamilton. It was really unexpected. I don't think Hamilton even saw him coming because he got really, really close to the wall. So that was by far the best overtake of the race.
Yes, that was awesome. That was a brilliant overtake for sure.
Yes, it was. All right, let's do over-unders now. Over-under is basically we pick one driver for the week we think overperformed their position, whether it be dragging a midfield car to high points finishes or just a really good all-around performance. That would be the over driver. And then the under would be someone who we think underperformed, whether it be somebody in a fast car who just didn't have a really good race or just didn't show very much pace. My over for the race was Lando. He did an excellent job moving up through the field, even though he was helped by the lap 1 crash. He got up 6 places. Even with all the pit lane drama, the lockup on entry, and the potential of going over the line on exit, he still did an excellent job with the race, and he got really, really close to passing Leclerc there at the end, so he definitely gets my over for the race.
Yeah, my over goes to Charles Leclerc, namely enough, because he was in that Ferrari, and Ferrari did not seem to have pace in any of the practice sessions. But he managed to pull through, and he had that brilliant stint on the mediums, which I was just like, wow. He went a long while on those mediums, and then he managed to bring home a podium, bring home some hardware.
Yes, he did. Ferrari's first podium of the season.
Yes. Very excited about that. Hopefully, I heard Zach Brown say that all of these other teams are a floor or just an upgrade away from being competitive. So it really is close, even though it seems like McLaren is dominating.
Yes, we'll see. In Spain, for the Spanish Grand Prix, a new FIA regulation will take into effect on tighter front wing flexing, so we'll see how that'll affect McLaren.
Oh.
My under for the week goes to George Russell. I mean, he had been showing pretty solid pace these past few races, but this week he just seemed to drop off, losing spots to both a surging Leclerc and a good Lando Norris. I mean, that Mercedes just didn't seem to be performing as well as it had been. Props to Kimi Antonelli for only losing 1 spot to Norris, which, I mean, that's kind of understandable. The McLaren is the faster than the Mercedes, but if you look at the timing, George Russell he continued to lose time to Leclerc and Norris, and I was surprised at his lack of pace compared to the previous races.
I think that was really contributed by the fact that Mercedes never had any long running done because of Tsunoda's crash in FP2 when they would have done their long running. They had no idea how the car was going to behave in this Saudi Arabian night. Like they were really flying blind in terms of setup. So that would probably explain why they were in the mix for the pole and then really fell off on their long run. I mean, Russell said like his tires were dead. Like his tires seemed to be almost completely gone. Probably because he was pushing with Lando and
yes, pushing to catch up to Lando and Charles.
Yeah, which then ate through his tires faster than he should have, which then cost him. And my under is Jack Doohan, just because we saw that the Alpine had pace and Gasly was good. And I don't think Doohan was far off, but he just didn't really come through when he really needed to with Alpine to make up for the points that Gasly could have scored. Really missed out on that opportunity.
I see a case for Doohan being the under on the season.
Yes.
Either him or Lawson.
Yeah, I think Lawson is probably the under on the season so far because he started on Red Bull, now he's on Racing Bulls, and still not getting up into the points.
Yes.
Okay, so there was some really interesting behavior from Max Verstappen about that penalty. He was like really chill. Like he had one of the shortest post race interviews I've ever seen. He was just like, I'm not going to talk about it. After all, the people can't handle the truth. Is what he said. So he's really censoring himself because he doesn't want to get fined by the FIA for what he would say about that. Because he probably would,
Yes, he
even though I
would.
agree with him. And even in the celebration on the podium, he just kind of like when they started spraying the champagne, he just kind of backed away and just had his own little sip of glory back in the corner.
Verstappen definitely has appeared more reserved this year. I mean, yes, whether it be to the swearing fines that he has received in the past and will receive again. We do agree with him, though, about the penalty that it was either unfair or definitely a toss-up. No penalty would have been the best course of action.
Right, and but he can't speak anything now because apparently you can't talk about the FIA if you're a driver.
Yes.
You can't because he believes that you can't express your opinions now. And Christian Horner even came out and said that this does not look like a penalty for Max Verstappen. So they're really is really just all. And Verstappen really elaborated to ESPN, and he was like saying that I can't really talk about what I want to talk about the penalty because I'll just get fined for it, and he doesn't want to get fined. So that's
Yeah.
really interesting there. So I'll be interested to see that becomes anything in Miami pre-weekend on the press day for Miami.
So that's a good transition into predictions. I think my biggest prediction for the rest of the season is that I think Max will continue. I think Max will continue to be a hindrance to the McLaren Championship fight. He won't be able to win the Drivers' Championship outright, but he will continue to interfere and to take points here and there away from the McLarens to ultimately lead to a pretty good championship fight, I think.
Yeah, I think Piastri might actually just run away with this. He's on lightning fast form right now. I mean, there's still some adversity that they'll have to overcome with the flexi wing restrictions that's being introduced but I think he'll be able to run away with this. I mean, he's got 3 wins on the season, and we're only 5 races in. Like he's got a winning record this year in Formula One, which is impressive, not to say the least.
Yeah, he and Lando now have the same amount of wins in Formula One. They're both tied at 5.
Both tied at 5 wins. I think Piastri could definitely run away with this championship.
On his current form, definitely.
Yes.
But we'll see what Lando ends up doing.
I mean, Piastri is still a really young driver, only in his third year, so maybe I'll catch up with him, but I honestly don't think so. Piastri, he drives really well.
Yes. All right. Next week, we will bring you news and a race review of the Jack Links 500 from Talladega Superspeedway. Yeah, Talladega is always a good race in NASCAR. Drafting
Yeah.
tracks are my favorite.
Drafting tracks are insane. Last fall, we got 4 wide for over 20 laps there. It was insane. And we had a photo finish. Ricky Stenhouse beat out Brad Keselowski by 6 thousandths of a second. Brad Keselowski quite literally sold back-to-back on Talladega so far. We'll be
Any
interested to see
predictions for
about that one.
Talladega?
Keep an eye out for, of course, Ricky Stenhouse after his interesting performance in Bristol. He had a good quality result. Always keep an eye out for Michael McDowell. He almost won the race last year. And, of course, previous winner Tyler Reddick. And, of course, the Penske trio. Always keep
Yes.
an eye out. I think Austin Cindric might win. He almost had it last fall as well. So definitely, I think he's going to be one of our Penske Fords taking home the win.
Yeah, I think it's high time for a 23XI driver to win because Tyler Reddick's been up there a few times this season. Bubba Wallace has been up there in the top 3
2311.
multiple times.
Bubba Wallace could definitely win his home race.
Yes.
2311, definitely time for a win. Also, Riley Herbst, he's had a really subpar performance this season, but he always does better on the drafting tracks. So I would keep an eye out for Herbst as well. When he was doing like one-off appearances in NASCAR, he would qualify into the top 5. Like he did that. I think he did that like 2 different occasions at the back half in 2023 and 2024, qualified in the top 5.
This may also be my bias, my 77 bias, as listeners will soon come to learn. But, I mean, Hocevar had a good run at Atlanta, so
It is
I really
time
hope he does
Hocevar gets a
something.
win.
It is
For
high
sure.
time, Hocevar. It is time. It is high time Hovercar gets a win.
Hovercar, as we call him.
Yes, Hovercar. We love Hovercar. If you enjoyed the show, please be sure to follow or subscribe depending on the platform. We are available on all major podcast platforms. We are on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Podcasts, and YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe and join the Discord too if you want to interact with us and the community. We're trying to grow this, and that'll be our main platform for engagement, polls, all kinds of stuff. So follow, subscribe, join the Discord, whatever. Thanks for listening. We'll see you guys next week.